Guys, welcome. It is May 11th. The market is not closed yet, but it looks like it might be closing at all-time highs again. Doesn't it feel like that just happens all the time? Well, it does. The market started out down this year, rebounded, came back in full force, and now we have all-time highs once again. I have friends of mine texting me going, woohoo, this is all-time highs, this is great. And I'm like, are you going to be cheering when it's 52, 104, 156 week lows? Probably not. Now, got a lot of things to talk about today. Stock market GDP ratio, we're going to go over that. 10-year PE ratio. But one thing I want to start with, which is very interesting to me. Wall Street says stock market euphoria has echoes of 1999, but a firmer foundation. Yes and no. Yes, the companies up at the top are making far more money than the companies at the top before, but they were still selling for egregious prices back then and today. And yes, a lot of dot-com companies had no revenue, no profit, etc. And we've gotten rid of that in this market with AI. But even then, look at OpenAI and Claude, these other companies, Anthropic. They're losing money hand over fist. OpenAI is talking about how people are already trying to shift on OpenAI, saying ChatGPT, saying, this thing's not even making money yet. What are we doing here? Those are the things we had back in the late 90s. Very similar to today. We've also got a shift in AI's changing the world. Internet was changing the world. So yes, I do understand what they're saying. I do like the top 7 companies in the market right now, but I think if we look back in history at the PE ratio, things like that, it's not that far off. And the other thing is the largest companies in the S&P 25, 26 years ago were very solid companies still. They weren't the dot-com companies. Yes, were dot-com companies getting hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in valuation? Absolutely. But they weren't the leading ones. So that's where I think people are forgetting that analogy. It's like, the top 7 stocks, the Mag 7 now, are really awesome. It's not like the dot-com era. It's like, well, the top 7 stocks in the S&P back in 2000 were really awesome companies. Let me show you. Microsoft, Cisco, GE, ExxonMobil, Intel, don't even know what this is, and Pfizer. These are the top 7 companies in March of 2000. These are all legitimate. I don't even know what this is, though. But the rest of them all exist today. Now, are they in different forms? Are they in the sense of like, is this one doing as well? No. Is Intel doing as well? No, even though the stock is up 1 billion%. But these are all around. Microsoft is still one of the top companies in the world. But even Microsoft went to a point in 2012 where I was buying it and a tech CEO told me I didn't know what I was doing because Microsoft was a dead company, even though its revenue and profit were going up. That's what I mean by all this is just crazy lunatic talk. This is absolutely incredible. But either way, I get it. People are always trying to justify why it's different this time. This is another version of it's different this time. Yes, they're saying Wall Street, stock market euphoria. I get that, but it's kind of like sitting there saying, why? Because look what we have here. This is our stock market to GDP ratio. We are currently 137% overvalued. Here's why it's scary. Back in 2000, based on today's history, the worst we got was 47% overvalued. We are almost triple overvalued than we were back then. Now, there is one metric where we're still under, the 10-year PE ratio. The 10-year PE ratio currently is 42.05. In 2000, it got as high as 44, I believe, and I'm scrolling down to get to it. 44.19. So yeah, it was worse back then. So either way, I'm looking at going, okay, it's 5% worse in terms of valuation on one metric, a lot worse based on another metric. Which one's right? I don't think it matters which one's right. The bottom line is it was still bad. The returns for the next 10 years were still negative in both areas, and it's still projecting to be negative. Does that mean sell everything? No. Keep dollar cost averaging because you don't know when it's going to bottom. And the other thing is, when the NASDAQ fell from the peak of March of 2000 to the bottom, if you just start at the peak of 2000 and dollar cost average to today, you'd have made over 15% return on your money. Even if the market falls in half, it's still 12 or 13% on your money. So don't stop dollar cost averaging, but get yourself emotionally ready for some bumpy times for the next 8 to 15 years. Now, it won't be bumpy the entire time. We will probably get back into a good bull market at some point, but we'll still be below today's levels in all likelihood at some point 8 to 15 years from now. If that sounds unreasonable, go look at history. It's not the only time it's happened, and it only happens during major market valuation highs like today. So guys, speaking of Intel, it continued its march up. They just announced a deal with Apple, something like that. This thing keeps on going up. Guys, I'm an Intel shareholder. This is ridiculous. This is makes absolutely no sense. They're still in the middle of a turnaround. My thesis on Intel was priced at $17 to $30 a share. The upside was well worth the downside because the downside was probably a buyout somewhere in the low to mid-teens. So I look at this thinking, what's changed in the company? It's still losing money hand over fist. Yes, is the revenue getting better? Sure, but it's still worse than it was at $75 a share. This is just purely a euphoric run-up that has occurred. Guys, look at this chart. This is the 6-month chart on Intel. This is insanity. This is insanity. March of this year, March 30th, a mere 6 weeks ago, it was at $44 a share. It has now tripled since then. It's absolute insanity. It makes zero sense. This is what I want you to hear for people who are new to the channel, people who've been around. Everybody else on YouTube would say, see, told you I was right. I'm looking at going, this is stupid. This is not what I signed up for when I bought Intel. Does that mean I'm selling everything? No, I mean, I had some shares taken away from covered calls, which I'm fine with. I have zero FOMO about it. But the ones that I have, I'm just going to like, okay, whatever, I'll just ride it out. And whatever ends up being, ends up being. But guess what? If Intel goes back to $20 a share, you better believe what I'll be doing. I'll probably be buying more. Don't do that just because I'm doing it. We're here to teach a process. But the point I'm trying to make is nobody could do anything but criticize Intel at 20. Now at 130, it's getting all this news. Oh, they're partnering with Apple. They're doing great. It's like, oh, this is news follows the stock price. It's unbelievable. Look at this thing. It wasn't quite, I mean, you look at this perpendicular line up today, but it was pretty straight up. And this was probably a 2-year period where it went parabolic. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Guys, until recently, it had never hit that high again. It went through it in April. It's absolutely crazy. Guys, in the short run, stocks are a voting machine. In the long run, it's a weighing machine. This is the short run for Intel. Guys, it makes no sense. Literally makes zero sense. I don't care what anybody says. And I want you to hear, as a shareholder of Intel, as a guy who's criticized for buying Intel, I'm not sitting here doing a victory lap saying, see, I was right. I want to talk in 10 years. I want to talk in 10 years if the stock is at $200 or $300 a share when I was buying it at $20 or $30 a share. Yes, I was buying it sub 50. I was buying it all the way, got it taken away from covered calls at 45. It fell back down, to 17. I was buying it from 35 all the way down to 17. My basis was somewhere in the 20s. So on the shares that I kept, I'm up 5x. Don't care. Literally do not care. It is useless. This is absolutely useless. It is not going to stay there in all likelihood. That is my opinion. Guys, Tim, our CEO, just pointed out, Paul, and by the way, this doesn't include the dividends. The 10-year return on Intel is now beating the market for the last 10 years. Who would have thought that would be said a year ago? In the short run, stocks are a voting machine. In the long run, they're a weighing machine. And all that return came in the last 6 weeks, right? Because March 30th, on 330, it was $40 a share. Now it's 128. So basically all of that return, almost all of it, 200% of it came in the last. Incredible.
Paul, you just don't get it.
I don't get it. You're absolutely right. I don't get it. Mercado Libre, the Amazon of Mexico, it is down a lot. 15% in the last 1 week. Why? Bad earnings. It is currently selling for, guys, this is why it's interesting. Look at the difference between their free cash flow and their net income. $11.8 billion in free cash flow versus 1.4. $5.5 billion in free cash flow over the last 5 years versus $1 billion. What is the reason? Our community members have it as a buy. It's selling for under 7 times free cash flow. You have to figure out why there's a big difference between free cash flow and net income. What is the reason there? Because that's a huge difference. Great returns on capital. Profit margin, 5-6%. Nothing huge. Gross margin of 43. I would have thought they'd have a higher profit margin with that. But I look at this saying, guys, this is a great company that was cheap before and it just got cheaper. We don't know in the short run what's going to happen. But a company that was cheap literally a week ago is now 15% cheaper. Doesn't mean that you should go out and buy it. I don't know. I'm just commenting on if these numbers are correct and they're going to grow from here, this is a massive opportunity. But that's an if. We don't know the future. I don't know what's going to happen. If God came down today and told me, Paul, $11.8 billion is the low they're ever going to do, and they're going to grow 7 to 12% a year for the rest of the time on their earning of free cash flow, I would sell everything I own and I'd buy Mercado Libre. It'd be incredible. Are they buying back shares? Let's find out. A lot of foreign companies do not. Let's see if they are.
If you care, Paul, I have some info.
They're not.
It says that part of the reason they fell was due to higher than expected costs and margin compression.
Okay. I don't know why that means that they should fall 15% in 1 week, but maybe it does.
Well, and it also says despite beating revenue expectations, so I'm with you.
And by the way, the other thing, guys, in the last 5 years, they've only spent $62 million on acquisitions. Look at this growth rate of revenue. 29, 40, and 43% over the last 3, 5, and 10 years. Let's compare that to Amazon. With $27 billion in acquisitions, 12, and 20%. They're beating Amazon on revenue growth. They're also a lot smaller than Amazon. But it just goes to show, like, Amazon is currently selling for, well, they have negative free cash flow, but in the 5-year, they're at 475 times free cash flow. Mercado Libre is 14 times in the last 5 years. I mean, it's absolutely a different story altogether. So, Micron. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Do you guys see this? Wow. Oh my gosh, this is... In the short run, stocks are a voting machine. In the long run, they're a weighing machine. 1 year, the stock is up 800% almost. Look at this. 5 year, it's up 893%. 1 year, 768%. Year to date, 100. Those 6 months, 230. Oh my gosh. All right, Rocket Lab. This is a company that is competing with SpaceX, and they're selling for 108 times sales. They have negative cash flow, net of net income, but guess what? People love the story. 1 year price is up 470%. Year to date, 60%. Is this all running on the heels of SpaceX going public and people wanting to get in on something? Oh my God, this is insane. Let's look at the financials here. Financials, okay, they're getting stronger. They're definitely growing their revenue significantly and growing their losses. Good for them. Guys, the way I like to look at things is this is a $73 billion company that did $680 million in revenue. I'm okay being patient, just waiting and going, let me wait till it makes sense. They have profit and revenue and cash flow. They're not in any of this. It's purely speculation. And by the way, guys, as they lose cash flow, they got to either take on debt or take on new shares, which dilutes people, which makes you less of an owner if you own the company. So let's say the company has 10 shares, you own one of them. You own 10% of the business. Let's say they need to raise cash because they're losing money. They issue 2 more shares. Now there's 12 shares outstanding. How many do you now own? You still own 1. So now you get 1 out of 12 shares, which is 1 out of 10. You went from 10% ownership to 8.33. And as they keep adding more shares to pay for those losses, you get diluted. It might be okay if the balance sheet stays this good and the valuation stays this bad. They keep issuing shares to bring cash in. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Guys, the Federal Reserve. This is while market sentiment can shift rapidly, traders have removed any probability of a rate cut essentially through April 2031. I'm reading this here on CNBC. I have a hard time believing this. That's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy to me. And this moves all the time. The Federal Reserve is quickly running out of reasons to cut interest rates. If the job market continues to be strong, if GDP growth continues to be strong, if inflation stays up, why are you cutting rates? You cut rates to boost unemployment, to boost prices. These are basics of economics. You know, I talk about these things with friends of mine. I was at lunch with a friend of mine on Thursday, and we were talking about deficits and surpluses. And Warren Buffett says that he thinks that deficits stand at 3% of GDP. GDP right now is roughly $31.5 trillion. So 3% would be $930 billion. I think we're running at $2 trillion deficits right now. So over double. I mean, if the economy can grow at 5%, 6% nominally, so you usually hear the real GDP number, which is 3% growth, real GDP. That means you have to add inflation to it. So based on inflation being 3% or 3.5%, 3% real GDP means you grow 6%. So if you're running deficits of 3%, but you're growing at 6%, it's okay. You'll eventually, I mean, your GDP will keep growing, and the gap between GDP and your debt will get further and further apart. But what we're doing is we're growing at, 5-6%, and we're also generating deficits of 5 or 6%. So you're getting no real growth in the economy, essentially. You're basically relying on the government to boost the economy because government spending is one thing in the economy. Guys, at the end of the day, I'm not calling the end of the world, but at some point, if we have too much debt that we can't service, it's going to be a problem. I think we spend 1.2 trillion a year on interest costs right now, and we're on pace to get to like 2 trillion by 2030 or something absurd. Guys, that's an absurd number. It can't work out in the long run for that, unless we have some massive GDP growth. And a lot of people think that's going to happen from AI. But the same people are the ones saying that AI is going to take away jobs. So which one is it? Are we going to have massive GDP growth and prosperity, or are we going to have jobs being taken away and nobody working? It can't be both. This is the confusing part for me. This is a recap for May 11th. The market is now shut down, and the market all-time highs. Congratulations to everybody out there who feels richer right now by 0.15%. Oh, the market's not closed. My watch is a little bit ahead. It'll be ending close up though. But guys, I appreciate your time. Do me 2 favors. If you're new to the channel and like it, subscribe. We do 4 or 5 videos a week. We go over earnings releases, the news in the market. And second, if you've been watching us for a while and ready to take the next step in investing, making your life a lot easier, more comfortable, and looking forward to market declines, check out our community, check out our software. It helps you in so many ways. Join the thousands of investors who already have. Click the link below, 7-day trial, $7. Thank you for your time.